Welcome everyone to the Psychology, Criminology and Law virtual event. Just a brief introduction of myself. My name's Aisha. I'm the psychology teacher on the course, for the course, and also the course coordinator. So I'll be taking you through this virtual event. Obviously, in normal circumstances, we would usually have you coming into college and having to have that face-to-face interaction, but obviously due to the current situation, we are unable to do that. But I will try and give you as much information as possible in here. And hopefully at a later date, if we are able to invite people in, then we will obviously have that face-to-face interaction as well. So just to kind of give you an idea of what I'll be going through with you today. So I'll briefly do the highlights of the course. So I intend to not go into too much detail, only because obviously the session is quite short as it is. And I want to be able to allocate maximum amount of time for the very last part, which is where you have the opportunity to ask me any questions. So I'll cover the highlights of the course, what the entry requirements are, how the course is delivered, anything to do with as much information as we have at the minute with regards to trips and placements, what sort of progression routes our students are looking at. And then at the end of the session, I'll basically give you the opportunity to ask me any questions. Now, whilst I'm going through the PowerPoint, you should be able to see on your screen a question and answer sort of box or link. If you click on that, and as I'm going through, if you have any questions, you can put the questions in there. Once I finish presenting, I'll go in and I'll sort of look through the questions that you've already put in there and answer them live, and then we'll see how we're getting on with time, whether I need to get back to a few of you maybe through emails. Okay. So in terms of the highlights of the course, where you may be familiar with BTECs originally being sort of assignment based and that's how they're delivered, this particular course is slightly different. So it's an exam based course where you cover 3 different qualifications. So you have a qualification, so we do a WJEC qualification, so a diploma in criminology. We do a BTEC extended certificate for psychology and a BTEC extended certificate for law. So you're essentially covering 3 different qualifications over the 2 years. Once the 2 years have been completed, you are then given a qualification which is equivalent to 3 A-levels. Now, over the years, you will cover different units. At the moment on this slide, I have only put down the units that are covered in the first year, because I think that's the most important information for you to have at this point. And then obviously, if you decide to get onto the course and if you decide to progress onto year 2, then that is information that we will be giving to you at that point. But what you can see on your screens currently is only the first year units that we cover. So in total, you would be expected to complete 2 external examinations. What we mean by external examinations is that they are not marked by your tutors, they are marked externally by the exam boards. So you would sit them how you sit GCSE exam in a large room with everybody who's on the course doing the exam at the same time. That exam is then sent off to the exam board, they mark it, and they will have your grades released sort of in around 2 months. There are 2 controlled assessments on the course. What that basically means is that one of them is externally assessed, so that one's for law, but I'll go into that in a second when I go into the units, where you are doing almost like an assignment, but under supervised conditions, and that's marked by the exam board. And then in total, 5 assignments in the year. So from that, you can see that it's actually quite an intense course, and there is a heavy element or sort of weighing on the exams. So just to give you an idea, for the criminology, the first unit that students will cover from September to January is changing awareness in crime. This is where students look at current campaigns, different crime-based campaigns, so things to do with drink driving, things to do with knife crime, things to do with county lines, drugs, that sort of thing. Now, the way this is assessed is that you would do a controlled assessment. It is internally marked, but it is done under controlled conditions over, I believe, 6 hours. So you're sat at a computer over maybe 2 days, and you have to complete your own campaign. So you're expected to create your own campaign, crime-based and campaign, on an area of crime that you're interested in, and that is internally assessed. The next unit that you cover for criminology is criminological theories. This is an external exam. This is done in May, and it is done just the way a GCSE exam would be done, and then it's sent off to the exam board to be marked. Okay. For psychology, the first unit, psychological approaches and applications, this unit is an exam-based unit, so it's externally assessed by the exam board, by BTEC. This is covered from September to January. Now, for this unit, what we basically cover is we have a look at different approaches and try and understand behavior. So we take an individual and we analyze their behavior in as much detail as possible. So if somebody commits crime, why do they commit crime? So we try and interlink the different courses that you are doing together with each other. So just say if we were looking at an individual who's engaging in like stealing behavior, for example, we try and assess that using the different psychological approaches. So we look at like the learning approach, biological approach, cognitive approach, and social approach, and we use them to understand individual behavior. Then the second unit for psychology, which is conducting psychological research, this is covered from January to sort of end of May. And this is the internally assessed unit. So this is the unit that I mark for individuals. And for this unit, learners are expected to create their own psychological research. So an experiment that they're interested in, obviously there's strict guidelines in terms of what students can actually carry out. But they carry out their own basic pilot study, and they have to analyze that pilot study for that second unit. So it's quite an interesting one where students actually get to experiment a little bit with an area that they're interested in. Then for law, the first unit is dispute solving in law. So it's looking at different conflicts in civil law. So that's sort of anything that's not crime based. It's based on more things like business, elements of family, that sort of thing is what is covered for the dispute law. Now, that particular one is a controlled assessment, but it is externally assessed. So like a first part of, I don't want to go into too much detail of that particular assessment because I don't want to overwhelm you. But the way that is carried out is you're given a brief beforehand. So students are expected to have their brief released just before Christmas holidays. They then have the opportunity to start planning for that assessment. And then in January, they will have a controlled assessment on a computer under exam conditions, where they will then use that brief to answer the questions that are provided from the exam board. They will not know what the questions are before then. They will find out on that particular day. It's just a prep task that they get to do before that. That lasts an hour and a half, and then that information is sent off to the exam board and they mark that. The second unit, which is investigating aspects of criminal law and the legal system, so this is looking at how laws and legislations are created. That unit is an internally assessed unit. So this is marked by the actual law tutors. So if you have any questions about the content of what I've just covered, if you just put a question in the Q&A box, and I will come back to it after the presentation. So the level offered and entry requirements. So I often have individuals asking me if they haven't met the entry requirements, whether this course is offered on a level 2. Unfortunately, it's not. We can only offer, and there is only a level 3 option available. At the moment, any of the exam boards, they've not created a level 2 option. So it's only done at a level 3. Now, our entry requirements for this course are generally higher than other BTECs. And the reason for that is because of how difficult the course is. Because you are doing 3 different courses together at the same time, it makes it a lot more difficult. And because there is an exam element, such a heavy exam element to the course, we need to know that students can perform in exams, okay? The other question, and I haven't put that on here, that I often get asked with regards to this course, is it possible to just do the psychology and then do that with a different course? Or is it possible to just do law and then do a different course? Unfortunately, no. If you take on this course, you take on all 3 elements and you have to pass all 3 elements, okay? So in terms of entry requirements, learners must have 5 GCSEs. So you are expected to have 5 GCSEs, an absolute minimum of a grade 4 and above in 5 GCSEs. Ideally, the English language and maths needs to be a grade 5. In the year gone, we've kind of allowed students who've got strong GCSEs generally and maybe have a 4 in maths, or a 4 in English language, but then they've got a 5 in literature and then a lot of 6 and 7s. We have taken students on under them circumstances, but it was only because obviously the way GCSE grades have been calculated and because it was predicted. So it wasn't necessarily an accurate assessment of learners' abilities. But generally, our entry requirements, so for the following year, September 2021, our entry requirements will be English and language at a grade 5, all other GCSEs ideally at a grade 4. I've put on here, although it's not on our website, but just an idea, what I will be looking at in the future to sort of maybe change the entry requirements is maybe have a science at a grade 5. It's desirable, it's not essential. And the reason why it's desirable is because in the psychology element, we cover a lot of science. So in the biological approach, there's a lot of science. And then in the second year, when we look at health psychology, there's a lot of science on that as well. So having a science is actually quite beneficial. Now, just to be clear, what you may know of other BTEC programs is that they are assignment based, or usually BTEC programs are like 30% exam and 70% assignment based. This course is 50% externally assessed and 50% internally assessed. So it's much more difficult than other BTEC courses. And you have to pass every single one of them units in order to get a qualification. Okay. If you have any questions about what I've just covered there, then please put it in the Q&A box and I will answer it as soon as I'm done. So the course is delivered at the moment, currently due to the situation that we're in. A lot of it is lecture based because of COVID and the guidelines and stuff. So at the moment, it's more sort of lecture based with a couple of workshops. But generally, the course involves having some lectures. It is very theory based. There is a very limited practical element to this course because of the kind of information that we cover. So it is very much theory based. We do have some workshops, especially with criminology, when you're sort of planning your campaign or analysing existing campaigns, then there's workshops. We have projects, especially with the psychology in the second unit, the conducting psychological research one. There's a heavy element on that project that individuals are creating. We tend to do a lot of group work, occasionally, not maybe straight away, because we just kind of want that skill to develop, but gradually in psychology for the second unit, learners are expected to do presentations of their findings. So when they've found the results that they have for whatever they wanted to research, they will then put a presentation together that they will present back to the rest of the group. And generally as well, with the activities that we do in lessons, you would then be expected to feed back to the rest of the group. Individual research projects, that's an element that is covered throughout. So that's covered in law for the dispute solving in law, because you need to start preparing your notes and stuff for that controlled assessment. With your assignments, with the psychological research, with the campaign that you create, there's a lot of element of independent individual research projects. And at the moment, currently, because of the situation, we have an element, not a huge element, but a smaller element, almost like 1/3 of the course is being run online. And with that, what we do is we set activities and exam questions based on content that has been covered through face-to-face lecturing, and then learners are expected to complete either booklets or exam questions and then submit them, and that's something that we then have a look at to make sure that they are practicing and have the skills from day one. Now, as you can imagine, especially with psychology, having an external exam, having started the course in September and then sitting the exam in January, it's a very short period of time for us to cover all the content, make sure we embed mock exams in there to make sure students have an idea of how to answer the exam questions. So there's a lot of things that need to be covered in quite a short span of time. So at the moment, what we get students to do, and they literally have been doing from week 1, is having a go at past exam questions pretty much straight away, so we can get them into the habit of how do you answer exam questions, what kind of information needs to be included, and so on. Again, if you have any questions with regards to what I just covered there, if you just put it in the Q&A box. Trips and placement. So last year we weren't able to do the trips that we wanted to because of the lockdown that took place. But we do like to have a trip at the end of the year, almost like a little bit of a celebration for learners to be able to get through the year, because it is quite stressful, and just something where, you know, we can do something fun with the students. So that sometimes could be based on, previously students have gone to like theme parks and things like that. With the psychology and criminology and law students, we were provisionally looking at booking at like an escape room, because we felt that that linked in a little bit better with their course. We also provisionally, for our second year learners, have put in a visit to a prison. Now, the reason why that's put in the second year as opposed to the first year is because of the age and being allowed into the prison. So they have the prison that we have contacts with, they can only allow students to visit who are 18 and over. So we put it into the second year because that gives more students an opportunity to be able to visit the prison. And then provisionally at the moment as well, depends on how this year goes through and whether they'll have courts running as normal. We intend to take the students to the courts and for them to get an idea of what a case looks like, and if we can maybe sort of go in and visit one of the, or have a day in a courtroom. In terms of placements, hopefully for the students, so for you who'd be hopefully starting with us in September 2021, we're hoping everything will be back to normal. So at that time, students will be expected to complete an element of hours. Now, at the moment, them hours have not been confirmed because it all depends on how the situation turns out by September 2021, whether there's a vaccination and whether, you know, we can return back to normality. So them hours haven't yet been confirmed, but you are expected to complete some hours. You are expected to find that placement that you are interested in. We will support you with that process, but it is up to you to find the area that you're most interested in. Because obviously we've got psychology, criminology and law, we'll have students who want to go and work in psychology, some who want to go and work in law, some who want to work in criminology. That's why we ask students to look for a placement that is better suited to you. So if you want to do something in sort of psychology, then maybe look at primary school, working with some charities, that kind of thing. If you're looking at law, then maybe look at some solicitor firms. And with criminology, it can be quite difficult, but like police stations or something with the police, it is possible because some of our students have been able to secure placements with the police. So something like that would be more appropriate. So what I would suggest, if you are hoping to come onto the course in September 2021, that obviously not at the minute, I wouldn't expect that from you at the minute. But once you've sat your GCSEs and you've got like a little bit more time back, then maybe start having a look at different types of placements that are available in your local area. And then not necessarily approach them, but just have their contact details available. So when you do start the course, we can get the ball rolling sooner rather than later and leaving it last minute. But where students obviously really struggle, I mean, we have our own contacts as well. So we've actually got a team of placement coordinators who will be able to support students. So if they are struggling to find placement, we might have some places that we can recommend, but that won't necessarily be in an area that you would want. So you ideally want to find something that is more suited to your area of interest where you would like to go. But obviously, once you start the course, your personal tutor and the placement coordinators can give you some guidance on that and help you with that. Again, if there's any questions or anything I haven't addressed there, if you just want to put the question in the Q&A and I'll get back to you. So in terms of progression routes, most of our current students are looking at applying to university. Majority of them, I would say probably about 98% of them, are looking at applying for a degree in either law, psychology, criminology, or combined degrees. So like a psychology and criminology combined degree or a law and criminology combined degree. The other sort of percentage, the sort of minority, tend to or are currently applying for apprenticeships. Remember, this is a relatively new course. So at the moment, we have got our first set of second years, and then we've got our second set of first years. So this course is literally, this is the second year running. But my second years students, some of them have found some apprenticeships with the police, some apprenticeships with like legal secretary work or like paralegals. Some of them are looking at apprenticeships as a probation officer, but most of them seem to be going for the apprenticeships with the police because there seems to be quite a few available at the moment. But like I mentioned, about between 95 to 98% of students will actually or are currently applying for university for a degree in either one of them subjects. Right, that brings me to the end of the presentation in terms of the information that I need to give you. But what I would say is before I stop sharing this screen, it might be an idea for you, just in case I don't get the chance to answer your question. Can I ask you to just take a picture of my email address? So aisha.rashid@solihull.ac.uk. If you can just take a picture of that email address, so in case I'm not able to answer any of your questions, then you can email me with your question and I will respond to that. Okay, I will now stop sharing my screen and I will move on to the screen where you've put some questions. I can see there's a few questions there, so I'll start addressing them. Okay, so I've got a question from Claire. What is the difference between sitting all courses as one or another college offering 3 different courses as standalone? Do we need to pass all elements in order to receive the 3 A levels? Yes, so you need to pass all the elements to be able to receive the equivalent. Now, just that first part where you've asked the question about courses or sitting or going to another college offering 3 different courses. Now, colleges that, as far as I'm aware, other colleges that are offering these 3 different courses are those who are offering it as A levels. So they will offer it as like an A level in psychology, an A level in criminology, and A level in law. So that's a different qualification. Now, A levels are purely exam based, completely exam based, whereas BTECs are a combination, or this BTEC and diploma is a combination of the 2. So it's assignment and exams. This is ideally for students who don't necessarily feel like they perform their best in exams. It gives them the opportunity, so even if they got a pass in the exam, they can then aim for getting like a distinction in the assignments and still end up with a good grade. So that's the difference between doing them as separate courses. But like I mentioned before, each one of the units from the first year and the second year will need to be passed in order to be able to get that qualification. I've got another question. Do Solihull College do English language? Yes, we do offer English language as a resit, but that is only for students who would get a 3 in their GCSEs. However, you would not be able to sit English language, resit English language alongside this course. You have to already hold English language to be able to do this course. Do BTEC completed at GCSE go towards a grade 4 and above? Claire, now this is an interesting point, and actually you've raised a really good point here. Now, when I am looking at students' GCSEs, when they bring their GCSEs to me for results checking for me to confirm whether they've been given a place or not, I focus on the GCSEs because I need to know that students can perform in exams. I don't look at the BTECs because the BTECs are set out very differently at GCSE level. Each BTEC is set out differently. So some will be completely assignment based, some will have a combination of both. For this particular course, and that doesn't apply to all BTECs, it's just for this particular course, the focus is on GCSEs because of the exam element and how difficult the exams are. The focus is for us to look at how many GCSEs the student has got and what grades they have got them at, as opposed to looking at any BTECs. Okay. So I've got a question. Does college help with transport? If you mean transport as in like offering like student finance or bursaries to pay towards being able to get to college, then yes, if you are entitled to it, you can apply for student finance and they can contribute towards transport and books and things like that. But hopefully at a later point when we do another event, I will go into sort of the resources that are required for this course as well. So students actually need to purchase 3 books, a psychology, criminology and law book. So things like that, student finance can help with if an individual is entitled. If I have another one, if I'm taking one course already, is that enough to get into university, or would this be useful? I'm not quite sure what that means. So if I'm taking one course already, is that enough to get? So this course over the 2 years, after the 2 years have been completed, is enough to get into university. But if just say at a different college, you were only doing, I don't know, maybe the psychology BTEC and then doing English or maths alongside it, then no, that wouldn't be enough to get you into university. To get into university, you need 3 A-levels or 3 A-level equivalents or a certain amount of UCAS points. But it's best to look at the course you want to do at university and what are the entry requirements for that course. Can you still get in if you get a pass, if you get past a grade 5 in foundation maths? Yes, we don't necessarily look at whether you've done higher paper or foundation paper. We look at mainly the grade. So if you got a 5 in maths, that would be fine. Do you have a prospectus that explains all you have gone through for the course? Please, can that be sent either through post or email? All the information, majority of the information that I have provided, you will find on the Solihull College website. So if you go onto the Solihull College website and then go into the 16 to 19 courses, there is a tab on there for psychology, criminology and law. If you click on that, you will find all of this information there. A uniformed course? No, we don't have a uniform requirement. However, we do expect students to dress in smart casual wear, what is appropriate for college, but no, there is no uniform. Ellie, you said you missed the beginning. Can I summarize what I missed? Would you be able to tell me at which point did you enter, so then I could go over what you may have missed? It says, is it worth taking this course if I want to go into teaching primary education? Yes, I have got a student who, one of my second year students who is, sorry, Eddie, just going back to what you just said, I've been told that you can watch the whole thing back in the next few days on the website. So they will leave a link for this on the website, so you will be able to watch it again. So just going back to the primary teaching or primary education question. So I have got one of my second years who's applying for primary education. So there is no issue with you being able to get into that. It opens up 2 options for you, essentially. You can either apply for a primary education degree, or you can apply for a degree in one of the areas that you're interested in. So it could be just say psychology that you're interested in. You do your degree in psychology, and then you can do a PGC in primary education and still get into primary teaching. So yes, you can do that with this course. What's the pass rate? Okay, based on last year's grades, so our first set of cohort who went through, pass rate for the psychology and criminology was 90%. And the law one, this is our first year doing law, so we have no pass rate for law at the minute because our current first years are the first individuals who will be sitting that law. Is there any flexibility at all with the grades of getting onto the course? Nicola, not really, because from when we have been running the course for the last sort of 2 years, we can see the difficulties that students face. Even those who have got 6s and 7s in their GCSEs find the step up from GCSE onto this course quite a massive step up. Therefore, the expectation is, if anything, we would be looking at higher grades because we always have limited amount of spaces on this course. So we tend to take on students with the highest grades onto the course. And even then, because of it being so different from what you would have done at GCSE, we wouldn't take on lower grades. Do you have the opportunity to resit an exam or assignment? Yes. So just say when you individuals sit their law and psychology exam in January, the external one, if they do not pass, they have the opportunity to resit that in May. But obviously, we ideally want students to pass the first time round, because then we move on to the second unit, which means that you then wouldn't have had any teaching towards that exam unit up until we have that resit. But yes, there is an opportunity to resit. Can we resit maths alongside this course? Currently, based on our cohort at the moment, yes, there is that option. However, it's not confirmed whether that option will be there for September 2021, because we've increased our entry requirements to for them to be grade 5 in English and maths, and everything else at a grade 4, with science being desirable at a grade 5. So at the moment, as it stands, not yet. However, if we get a lot of applications where the students have got like really high grades and everything else, and then it's just the maths, then we may consider adding that as an option. Be classed as equivalent to A-levels. Do future universities see this as 1 A-level or 3 in order to progress to a degree? Okay, so Dewey has asked, you said at the start it would be classed as equivalent to A-levels. Do future universities see this as 1 A-level or 3 in order to progress to a degree? It is seen as 3 separate ones, because when you have completed the 2 years, you will get a separate certificate for psychology, a separate one for criminology, and a separate one for law, because they are 3 separate qualifications. So universities will recognize them as 3 separate qualifications, with each one being equivalent to 1 A-level. So psychology, equivalent to 1 A-level, criminology, equivalent to 1 A-level, and law, equivalent to so I've answered that one. But can you please confirm the difference between sixth form course and this one? Right, so the difference between, if you're asking me about what Solihull sixth form offer in comparison to here, what Solihull College offer, then what we are offering is BTECs in psychology, criminology, and law. What Solihull sixth form is offering is A-levels in psychology, criminology, and law. The difference between the two is A-levels is completely and fully 100% exam-based. BTECs is a combination of exams and assignments. So 50% exam, 50% assignment. How much would the books be? So in total, all 3 books are costing around £96. So they're around £25 each for per book. Joined at trips and placement. Okay, so you joined quite late. Ellie, I have been told by Sean that in the next couple of days, this webinar or this video will be available on our website. So just because I'm a little bit conscious of time, I haven't got a lot of time left. I wouldn't be able to go through everything again, but you can watch this video back through our website. Right, so I've been asked again, and there's a few questions actually that are asking about free travel, bus passes, and so on. So if you are offered a place onto the course and you start the course, you have then the opportunity to apply for student finance. Now, they basically assess your current household income, whether you fall into the category of requiring additional support, or whether that they won't give you that amount or whatever. But yes, you can apply for student finance. And if you are entitled to student finance, then yes, you will get support with bus passes, you will get support with purchasing books and any costs for trips. Okay, student finance will cover them costs, but you would be expected as soon as you start the course to apply for student finance, so then this entitlement can be assessed. Okay, so I've answered, I believe that would answer all of the transport ones. So I've got another question. If I'm already taking childcare course next September, is it still possible to take this course? Yes, so if you've currently applied for the childcare course, You can also put in an application for the psychology, criminology and law course. We have already started interviewing students. So every Monday, sort of after 3:30, we have interviews. So once you apply for it, we'll be able to interview you and see whether we can offer you a place. Do we get 3 separate teachers or do we only get 1 teacher? Okay, you have separate teachers. So I cover the psychology. You will have a separate teacher who covers law and a separate teacher who covers criminology. Because they are such specialist subjects, each one of them is different. So you'll have a different member of staff for each one of them. And then you'll have a personal tutor as well. Do you have to get a grade 5 in both English, literature and language? No, I will be looking at the language as opposed to literature. Obviously, if you had it in both, that would be great. But if you didn't, it's the language that I'm focused on. Okay, what are the requirements for financial aid and books for transport? At the moment, I don't have this information, but once you are accepted on the course, the student support officer and the finance team can give you information about what is the entitlement requirements. Are there any courses you cannot take with psychology? I'm not sure what you mean, Nadia, but with this psychology course, it's set up. So you do psychology, criminology and law, and that is how it's set up. There's no flexibility in that. Are there any courses? If you can just clarify, if you mean with regards to like at university, then I can address that question. But if you can just clarify what you're asking. The latest time to apply. So we do have sort of late enrollments, but because of the popularity of this course, really the earlier you apply, the better it is. But at the same time, just say even if you left it till sort of around August, we would still be doing interviews and late enrollments at that time. But obviously, whether individuals will be getting a place, if you apply after GCSEs, we can't confirm that there will be a place available, because if everybody we've offered a place to gets the entry requirements and gets onto the course, we may not have spaces available. Can we choose another course along with psychology, criminology and law? No. So if you choose to do psychology, criminology and law course, so this course, you cannot do any other course alongside it. This is the only course that you would do for the 2 years. Can I still do the course if I get like a 4 in maths, but I got really high grades in both English, literature and language? We would have to assess that on an individual basis. So it's not just about really high grades in English, literature and language. When I am sort of assessing individuals, I would say that what I'm really looking at is, alongside English language, I'm also looking at if you've selected options as psychology, or if you're doing GCSEs in things like RE, history, because all of them, the way the exams are laid out, they show a lot of skill that would link in with the way exams are laid out for this course. So it would be on an individual basis. If I had to lower the entry requirement by accepting a 4 in maths, what I would be expecting really is, very high grades in everything else. Do them separately alongside. So you have to take psychology, law and criminology together as one course. You cannot take them separately alongside other courses, no. With the amount of places available, they have increased each year. It depends. If the demand increases, we may be able to offer more places. But at the moment, we are sticking to the places that we currently are able to offer. So just say around 100 spaces. But if the demand of the course was to increase, we may be able to offer more places. But that is something that we would have a look at as and when with the applications come in. Meant to choose 4 courses in the first year and then drop one of the 4 in the second year. That's with A levels, not with this course. Once you apply for this course, this is the course that you would do for 2 years. It's, often with A levels that you can apply for 4 different courses and then you drop one for the second year, but not with this course. Once you choose this is to reach after 1 year, you have to reach a pass in psychology, a pass in law, and at least a D in criminology to be able to get onto year 2. Is there a good no tolerance for bullying as a whole in all aspects of the college? Absolutely. There is zero tolerance for bullying or anything that we would consider inappropriate or unacceptable behavior. Once students have been offered a place on the course, we will go into sort of a code of conduct and a probationary period and all of them sort of things. We will go into more detail at that point during the induction period with students. But yeah, absolutely no tolerance for bullying. Yes, you can apply for 2 different colleges and then you can ultimately make the decision yourself. With the student finance, that information will be given to you once you have been offered a place on the course and you are due to start. Then it will make more sense because it's through our internal systems that you would be applying through student finance. At the moment, you would not have access to them systems. It's a full-time course, and I'm just a little bit conscious of time. I haven't got much time left, but I'll try and quickly go through these last few. If I just go through these last few, and then at the moment, if you, rather than posting the questions on here, if you can email me the questions instead. So I've got a question from Dewey, as it's a fairly new course, is it definite that universities see the BTEC as equivalent to A-levels? Yes, because BTECs have been around for a very long time. It's just our course is relatively new, but the BTECs themselves have been recognized by universities previously. And at the moment, our students are applying for university, so it appears on the UCAS website as well. The course is a full-time course, and at the moment, students are in 3 days a week and then doing some hours online as well. With this one, with this course, you are only allowed to take this course. You can't take another one alongside it. So I've answered that. So it's a full-time course. The hours are like an average day will be 9 to 4 for around 3 days, and then you will have some online and placement as well. Yet the minimum grade, as I mentioned, it needs to be a pass for psychology, a pass for law, and a D for criminology to be able to progress. That's the absolute minimum. I've already addressed this, how many students you accept on the course. Our numbers can change depending on the demand of the course. So we initially started off with much less numbers, but that's increased as each year the demand of the course increases. Tawa, with the student of finance and applying to this, I can't answer this question just yet because it's done through our internal systems. So until you are not offered a place on the course and have not been accepted onto the course, you would not be able to apply for student finance. So the hours that students are attending at the moment, their timetable, they attend for 3 hours for psychology, 3 hours for law, 3 hours for criminology. They then do an hour and a half for each of them online, and then they have a tutorial as well. So quite a few hours. Yeah, I'll just cover that. So quite a few hours, but they will be very similar if the COVID situation wasn't there as well. So 3 days is what students would be expected to attend. Just before I leave, just to point to clarify that if individuals do not get the grades to be able to get onto this course, but they were offered a place originally, but any offers we make to students are conditional offers. No unconditional offers are made. It's conditional based on you meeting the entry requirements, a good reference, and a good report. That's what we expect before we can say, yes, you are definitely onto the course. That will usually happen once GCSE results have been released. If students do not meet the requirements for our course, we often just sort of guide them in what other alternative course they can do, depending on what they want to do in the future. So we wouldn't just leave you with like, actually, you haven't met our course requirements, you're going to have to go and find something else. What we would actually do for the students is find out what career they're interested in and recommend an alternative course that will still allow them to progress onto university for that particular career. Okay. That sort of, I think I have addressed all the questions. and I've had the opportunity to answer them all. So I think that's everything from me. If you remember, or if you have any other questions, please drop me an email and I will respond to you as soon as possible. But hopefully, if we have more events like this, then you will have more opportunity to ask any other questions that you need. Thank you all for attending. Hopefully you have found this helpful. And just a reminder, the sooner you apply, the better it is. We are already interviewing. We've already been interviewing for the last 2 weeks. So if you are interested in the course, please can you put in the applications now, because that ultimately will have an impact on what numbers we decide for the following year, what kind of spaces we have available for the following year, and also saving you from the disappointment of being told that there's no more spaces available. So please, if you are interested in this course, put in your applications now so we can start interviewing. Okay, thank you all. Take care. Have a lovely evening. Bye.